The lie of quiet luxury, or how minimalism became maximalism's most expensive costume. Welcome to the Threads of Culture, a show that unpacks the evolving landscape of design, branding, and the cultural forces shaping the global stage. Today, we're diving into the strange contradiction at the heart of modern fashion, where looking like you spent nothing has become the most expensive thing you can do. The most radical act in luxury fashion wasn't a bold new collection or a provocative runway. It was an empty Instagram grid. In 2021, Bottega Veneta deleted 15 million followers worth of content. No announcement, no explanation. Every brand on earth was screaming for attention, and the most talked about label in fashion went completely silent. It generated more press coverage than any campaign they'd ever run. The most maximalist move in modern luxury was disguised as minimalism. So what happens when restraint becomes a performance? When simplicity costs more than spectacle? When the whole point of your outfit is that nobody can tell how much it cost unless they already belong to the same class you do? And if minimalism was born as a democratic ideal, what does it mean that its most refined expression now starts at $2,000 and goes up from there? This isn't just a fashion trend, it's a new grammar of exclusion. And if you don't understand how it works, you're already on the outside of a conversation designed to keep you there. First, we'll trace how minimalism went from a democratic design philosophy to a luxury strategy. Then, we'll follow the money through the brands that perfected this contradiction. From Bottega Veneta to the Row, to Phoebe Philo's Celine. And finally, we'll look at how TikTok, the dupe economy, and algorithmic aspiration are simultaneously fueling and unraveling the entire quiet luxury myth. To understand quiet luxury, you have to understand what minimalism was supposed to be. The Bauhaus movement in the 1920s was a moral project. Strip away ornament, reduce cost, serve the many. Dieter Rams at Braun. Scandinavian modernism. Mu-Gi. These were design philosophies built on a simple conviction. Good design should be accessible to everyone. Less wasn't a luxury, less was the point. Now hold that thought and place it next to a plain white t-shirt that costs $590. Same visual language. Opposite intention. Quiet luxury borrows the entire aesthetic vocabulary of democratic design and attaches it to the most exclusionary price points in fashion history. The clean lines, the neutral palette, the absence of decoration, it all reads as restraint. But the restraint is a fiction. The real story is written in fiber weight, in construction hours, in the price of entry, to even knowing which brands to look for. This is Pierre Bourdieu in a cashmere sweater. His theory of cultural capital argued that taste is never neutral. It's inherited, learned, performed. And quiet luxury is perhaps the purest expression of that idea ever manufactured. The old model of conspicuous consumption was straightforward. You bought the logo, you displayed the logo, people recognized the logo. Gatekeeping through money. Quiet luxury shifts the gate. It's no longer, can you afford this? It's, do you even know what this is? That's a more insidious barrier because it looks egalitarian. A Loro Piana baseball cap looks like any other cap. Unless you know it costs $400. Unless you recognize the fabric. Unless you watched the Roy family wear one on Succession and understood what the costume designer was telling you about American dynastic wealth. The knowledge is the key. And the knowledge is not equally distributed. Coco Chanel stripped fashion of Victorian excess a century ago, but a Chanel suit was never cheap. What's different now is scale, intentionality, and the degree to which visual absence has been weaponized. The less you show, the more you spend. The less you signal, the louder you broadcast. But only to the right frequency. So who perfected this frequency? Start with Phoebe Philo. Her decade at Celine, from 2008 to 2018, is widely credited as the origin point of modern quiet luxury. She stripped visible branding from the house and created what critics called intellectual fashion, which turned out to mean fashion you needed cultural capital, not just money, to decode. When she launched her own label in 2023, a plain white tank top sold for $590. A pair of sunglasses, $850. They sold out immediately. Those buyers weren't purchasing cotton or acetate. They were purchasing membership. That's not minimalism. That's a religion with expensive vestments. Then there's the row. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen built a brand where a $390 tank top and a $6,900 unmarked handbag represent the apex of fashion. Their stores are hushed, sparse, appointment only. The design philosophy is explicit. You shouldn't be able to tell it's expensive from a photograph. But here's the lie. The inability to tell is exactly what makes it exclusive. You need to be in the room. You need to touch the fabric. You need to already know. The photo-proof claim isn't modesty. It's a moat. And then Daniel Lee's Bottega Veneta. No logo, no monogram, just the signature Intrecciato weave-on bags retailing from $2,800 to over $15,000. You either recognize the weave or you don't. Lee deleted the brand's entire social media presence and relied on a strategy you could summarize as, when you know, you know. Sales surged. The deliberate withdrawal from visibility became the ultimate visibility play. Every fashion publication covered the deletion. Every competitor noticed the sales numbers. The silence was deafening, and it was incredibly profitable. Joseph Altuzarra described luxury as having split into two camps, one driven by logo-based status signaling, another seeking emotional resonance and craftsmanship. But here's what that framing obscures. Both camps are spending the same money. The distinction is purely aesthetic and social, not economic. Quiet luxury didn't reduce consumption. It rebranded it. And perhaps most tellingly, these brands began marketing their products as sustainable and timeless rather than through stylized logos. Sustainability became a class signifier. The Berkeley Technology Law Journal flagged exactly this move. Ethical language converted into luxury positioning. Buy less, buy better. It sounds responsible until you realize better means $3,000 for a sweater that looks identical to one costing $300. Now, here's where it gets complicated. TikTok didn't just spread quiet luxury. It democratized the discourse while simultaneously proving why the trend exists. Search stealth wealth or old money aesthetic, and you'll find thousands of videos teaching people how to perform austerity, how to dress like inherited wealth, how to look like you've never thought about money by thinking very carefully about money. The aspiration engine runs at full speed, but it's chasing something structurally designed to retreat from anyone chasing it. That's the mechanism. And the dupe economy accelerated the whole cycle. Fast fashion made logo-heavy luxury instantly replicable. If anyone can carry something that looks like a Gucci bag, the logo loses its gatekeeping power. Quiet luxury is the countermove. You can dupe a monogram. You cannot dupe a garment whose entire value lives in invisible material quality and insider recognition. The barrier shifted from visual to tactile, from public to private, from obvious to encoded. Eugene Rabkin, writing in Business of Fashion, argued that the quiet luxury trend might be shallower and more fleeting than the breathless coverage suggests. He's probably right that the trend cycle will move on. Vogue Arabia is already calling the return of maximalism. Coach and Tory Burch are thriving by being excessively aspirational. But the mechanism, quiet luxury, revealed, using visual absence as the ultimate status signifier that persists long after the trend pieces stop. Because it solved a problem the wealthy actually have. Economic inequality is at historic levels. Visible wealth has become socially risky. The ultra-rich don't want to be identified as ultra-rich, not out of modesty, out of self-preservation. Quiet luxury isn't taste, it's camouflage, and algorithms will keep refining who sees what, ensuring that the right products reach the right eyes while remaining invisible to everyone else. The gatekeeping doesn't need a logo when it has a recommendation engine. So, the lie of quiet luxury. Maybe calling it a lie is generous. A lie implies something hidden. This is more like a magic trick performed in plain sight. Everyone can see the plain sweater. Almost no one can see the $3,000 price tag. And the trick only works because we agreed, collectively, that visible simplicity equals virtue. It doesn't. It equals a new kind of excess. One that learned the most dangerous lesson in the history of status. The best way to display wealth is to make it invisible to anyone who doesn't already have it. Here's what I want to know. Have you ever looked at something plain, something simple, something deliberately unremarkable, and felt intimidated by it? Not by what it showed you, but by what it refused to show. Think about that feeling for a second. That discomfort is the product, and you didn't even have to buy anything to experience it. If this changed how you see a plain white t-shirt, imagine what it does to someone who just spent $500 on one. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Help us grow a community where curiosity meets culture. While you're here, go ahead and like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, this has been The Threads of Culture.